When Kim Kardashian, one of the most powerful influencers on the planet with hundreds of millions of followers hanging on her every post, decides to delete a photograph from her carefully curated Instagram feed, the world takes notice, and when that photograph happens to feature Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, two of the most talked about, scrutinized, and controversial figures in modern royal history, the deletion becomes more than just a simple social media housekeeping task. It transforms into a statement, a message, a potential snub that sends ripples through the interconnected worlds of Hollywood glamour and British royal tradition. The digital age has given us unprecedented access to the lives of the rich and famous, but it has also created a new language of signals and symbols where a single click of the delete button can speak volumes about relationships, alliances, and the ever-shifting landscape of celebrity friendships. Kim Kardashian, the reality television mogul turned business empire builder, has built her brand on strategic visibility, on knowing exactly what to share, when to share it, and perhaps most importantly, what to remove from the public eye. Every photograph on her Instagram grid serves a purpose, tells a story, reinforces her brand narrative, and contributes to the carefully constructed image of a woman who has transformed herself from a reality show personality into a billionaire businesswoman, criminal justice reform advocate, and cultural icon. So when she makes the decision to remove a photograph featuring Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, we have to ask ourselves what message she's sending, what has changed in the relationship between these titans of their respective worlds, and what does this deletion tell us about the complex web of celebrity relationships, public perception, and the ongoing saga of the Sussex couple's life outside the traditional royal fold. To understand the significance of this deletion, we need to examine who these people are, what brought them together in the first place, and why their connection matters in the broader context of celebrity culture and royal watching. Kim Kardashian needs little introduction to anyone who has been conscious during the past 2 decades, as she has become one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, a woman who turned a leaked intimate video and a reality television show into a multi-billion-dollar empire spanning cosmetics, shapewear, mobile apps, and countless other ventures. Born Kimberly Noel Kardashian on October 21, 1980, in Los Angeles, California, she grew up in the affluent neighborhood of Hidden Hills, the daughter of Robert Kardashian, the attorney who gained fame as part of O.J. Simpson's defense team, and Kris Jenner, who would go on to become the ultimate momager and architect of the Kardashian-Jenner dynasty. Kim first entered the public consciousness as a friend and stylist to Paris Hilton, but it was the premiere of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in 2007 that truly launched her into the stratosphere of fame. The show, which would run for 20 seasons and spawn numerous spin-offs, gave viewers an unprecedented look into the lives of the Kardashian-Jenner clan, their relationships, their businesses, their dramas, and their triumphs. Kim quickly became the breakout star, using the platform to launch business venture after business venture, each one more successful than the last. Her mobile game Kim Kardashian Hollywood became a massive hit, her contour kits with KKW Beauty revolutionized makeup trends, and her shapewear line Skims has become a genuine fashion phenomenon, earning her a place on Forbes's billionaire list. Beyond business, Kim has also made surprising moves into criminal justice reform, working to free wrongly convicted individuals and even studying to become a lawyer herself, following in her late father's footsteps. Her personal life has been equally scrutinized, from her 72-day marriage to NBA player Kris Humphries to her high-profile relationship and eventual marriage to rapper Kanye West, with whom she shares 4 children, North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm, before their divorce was finalized in 2022. Kim's influence on social media cannot be overstated, as she has over 360 million followers on Instagram, making her one of the most followed people on the platform, and every post, every story, every photograph she shares is analyzed, discussed, and dissected by millions around the world. On the other side of this equation stand Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, 2 individuals whose love story captured the world's imagination before devolving into one of the most contentious and divisive sagas in modern royal history. Prince Harry, born Henry Charles Albert David on September 15, 1984, is the younger son of King Charles III and the late Princess Diana, arguably the most beloved royal figure of the 20th century. Growing up in the shadow of his mother's tragic death in 1997, Harry struggled with his role within the royal family, serving in the British Army for 10 years including 2 tours in Afghanistan, and often being portrayed as the fun-loving, slightly rebellious spare to his brother William's heir. His life changed dramatically when he met Rachel Meghan Markle, an American actress best known for her role as Rachel Zane on the legal drama Suits, at a blind date arranged by a mutual friend in July 2016. Meghan, born August 4, 1981, in Los Angeles, California, had carved out a successful career in Hollywood, though she had never reached A-list status before meeting Harry. She was previously married to producer Trevor Engelson from 2011 to 2013, and had become known not just for her acting but also for her lifestyle blog The Tig and her humanitarian work. The relationship between Harry and Meghan moved quickly, and their romance was announced to the world in November 2016 when Harry took the unprecedented step of releasing a statement condemning the media harassment and racial undertones in some of the coverage of his girlfriend. They were engaged in November 2017 and married on May 19, 2018, in a ceremony at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle that was watched by millions around the world and hailed as a modernizing moment for the British monarchy, with Meghan becoming the first person of mixed race to marry into the senior royal family in modern times. The couple welcomed their son Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor on May 6, 2019, and for a brief moment, it seemed like a fairy tale come true. But behind the scenes, tensions were building, with Meghan reportedly struggling with the intense media scrutiny, the rigid protocols of royal life, and what she and Harry would later describe as a lack of support from the institution. These tensions exploded into public view in January 2020 when Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back as senior members of the royal family, a move that became known as Megxit and sent shockwaves through the British establishment. They relocated first to Canada and then to California, settling in the wealthy enclave of Montecito, just outside Santa Barbara, where they purchased a $14 million mansion and began building a new life outside the royal bubble. Their daughter Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor was born on June 4, 2021. In March 2021, they sat down for a bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey, making explosive allegations about racism within the royal family, lack of support for Meghan's mental health struggles, and the decision to strip Archie of security protection. This interview divided public opinion sharply, with supporters seeing them as victims of an outdated and discriminatory institution, while critics accused them of attacking Harry's family and playing the victim while cashing in on their royal status. Since then, the Sussexes have signed lucrative deals with Netflix and Spotify, though the Spotify partnership ended in 2023 amid reports of tension and under-delivered content, launched their Archewell Foundation, produced a Netflix documentary series about their relationship, and Harry published his memoir Spare in January 2023, which became one of the fastest-selling nonfiction books in history while also deepening the rift with his family through its candid revelations about private royal moments and conflicts. The connection between Kim Kardashian and the Sussexes makes perfect sense when you consider the overlapping worlds they inhabit, the rarefied space where Hollywood celebrity meets international fame meets social activism meets business empire building. Both Kim and Meghan are California-based power players who have built their brands on strategic media management, both have faced intense scrutiny over their relationships and life choices, and both have been accused of being fame-hungry opportunists by their critics while being celebrated as savvy businesswomen and advocates by their supporters. The Kardashians and the royal family occupy parallel positions in their respective cultural contexts, as the British royals are often referred to as Britain's first family while the Kardashians have been called America's royal family. Both are dynasties built on celebrity, both face constant media attention and public fascination, and both understand the power of image management in the modern age. When Harry and Meghan moved to California and began building their life as Hollywood-adjacent celebrities rather than working royals, it was perhaps inevitable that their orbit would intersect with the Kardashian universe. The photograph that Kim deleted was not just a random snapshot but represented a moment of connection between these two worlds, a visual documentation of the relationship between the woman who epitomizes modern American celebrity culture and the couple who walked away from centuries of British royal tradition to forge their own path in that very culture. The specific circumstances surrounding the photograph in question add layers of intrigue to the deletion. While the exact image has not been publicly confirmed in all its details, reports and social media sleuths have indicated that the photograph showed Kim alongside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle at what appeared to be a social gathering or charity event, one of the many high-profile occasions where celebrities of their stature might cross paths. The photo had been on Kim's Instagram feed, visible to her hundreds of millions of followers, serving as a badge of her connection to the royal rebels and perhaps lending her some of the aristocratic glamour that the Sussex name still carries despite their departure from official duties. For Meghan and Harry, being photographed with Kim Kardashian represented validation of their new status as Hollywood players, a signal that they had successfully made the transition from royals to celebrities and were being embraced by the existing celebrity establishment. Social media users had noticed the photograph when it was posted, with many commenting on the meeting of these two worlds and speculating about potential friendships, collaborations, or simply noting the cultural significance of seeing these particular individuals together in one frame. The photograph had accumulated thousands upon thousands of likes and comments, becoming part of the permanent record of Kim's carefully curated Instagram presence and the Sussexes' journey in their post-royal life. But then something changed. Without warning or explanation, the photograph disappeared from Kim's Instagram grid, deleted as cleanly as if it had never existed, leaving only the memories of those who had seen it and the screenshots that eagle-eyed fans had saved before its removal. The deletion was noticed almost immediately by royal watchers and Kardashian fans, those dedicated followers who monitor every move of their favorite celebrities and who have become remarkably adept at spotting even the smallest changes to social media accounts. Within hours, the deletion was being discussed across multiple platforms, with users on Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and various celebrity gossip forums all asking the same questions. Why would Kim delete this particular photograph? What had happened between the time she posted it and the time she removed it? Was this a deliberate snub aimed at the Sussexes, or was there some other explanation? Had something occurred behind the scenes that had soured the relationship? Was Kim responding to pressure from other quarters, perhaps from people who disagreed with her association with the controversial couple? Or was this simply a matter of Kim refreshing her Instagram aesthetic and the Sussex photo happened to be among the casualties? The speculation was immediate, intense, and divided, with different camps offering different theories based on their own perspectives and biases. To understand why this deletion matters and what it might mean, we need to examine the broader context of the Sussexes' relationships within celebrity and high society circles since their departure from royal life. When Harry and Meghan first moved to California, there was significant speculation about how they would be received by the Hollywood establishment and whether they would be able to successfully integrate into that world. Some questioned whether they had the star power to make it outside the royal family, while others predicted they would be embraced with open arms by celebrities who saw them as kindred spirits who had stood up to an oppressive institution. The reality has been more complicated than either prediction suggested. The Sussexes have indeed formed relationships with various celebrities and power players, attending events, being photographed with A-listers, and clearly attempting to position themselves within the upper echelons of California society. They have been spotted with everyone from Oprah Winfrey, who has become something of a mentor figure to them, to Tyler Perry, who provided them with security and housing during their transition period, to various other actors, musicians, and media figures. However, their reception has not been uniformly positive, as some celebrities have been reluctant to publicly align themselves with the couple given the controversy that surrounds them and the very real risk of alienating fans who disagree with their approach to the royal family. British celebrities in particular have had to navigate a delicate balance, as showing too much support for the Sussexes could be seen as disrespectful to the royal family and could damage their standing in the United Kingdom. Even American celebrities have had to consider the implications, given that public opinion on Harry and Meghan remains sharply divided. With passionate supporters and equally passionate critics, there have been reports of celebrities declining to appear with them or distancing themselves after initial contact, though these reports are often difficult to verify and may be exaggerated by media outlets looking for conflict and drama. Kim Kardashian's position in all of this is particularly interesting because she operates in a unique space within celebrity culture, as she is simultaneously a mainstream figure with massive broad appeal and someone who has faced her own share of criticism and controversy throughout her career. Kim has been accused of cultural appropriation, of promoting unrealistic beauty standards, of being famous for being famous, and of countless other offenses by her critics, yet she has managed to weather all of these storms and emerge stronger, building genuine business success and even pivoting into more serious endeavors like criminal justice reform. Her relationship with controversy has given her a certain immunity, as her brand has already weathered so many storms that one more association with controversial figures might not seem like a big risk. At the same time, Kim is extraordinarily strategic about her public image and her associations, as every friendship, every photograph, every public appearance is calculated to serve her broader goals and maintain her position at the center of cultural conversation. Her decision to photograph with Harry and Meghan would not have been made lightly, as she would have considered the implications, the optics, and what message it sent about her own brand and values. Similarly, her decision to delete that photograph would not have been made impulsively, as someone with her level of social media sophistication understands that deletions get noticed and spark speculation, so the act of removing the image was itself a form of communication, a signal that something had shifted in her thinking or in her circumstances. One theory that has gained significant traction among observers is that Kim deleted the photograph in response to changing public sentiment around the Sussexes, particularly in the wake of Prince Harry's memoir Spare and the ongoing fallout from their various public statements and media projects. The book, published in January 2023, contained numerous revelations and accusations that further damaged Harry's relationships with his family, including claims about physical altercations with his brother Prince William, details about private conversations with his father King Charles, and various other intimate family moments that many felt should have remained private. The public reaction to Spare was mixed at best, with many people who had been sympathetic to Harry and Meghan's plight expressing discomfort with the level of detail he shared about his family and questioning whether his approach was constructive or simply vindictive. Even some supporters began to wonder if the couple was taking things too far in their public criticism of the royal family, and there were signs that the tide of public opinion might be turning against them. For someone like Kim Kardashian, who is extraordinarily attuned to public sentiment and the shifting winds of popular culture, this changing atmosphere could have prompted a reassessment of her association with the Sussexes. If being photographed with Harry and Meghan had gone from being a neutral or positive association to one that carried significant baggage and potential backlash, it would make perfect sense for Kim to distance herself by removing the evidence of that connection from her Instagram feed. This theory suggests that the deletion was a calculated business decision, Kim protecting her brand by stepping away from individuals who had become too controversial and whose controversy might threaten her own carefully maintained image and business interests. Another theory focuses on potential conflicts between the Kardashian brand and the Sussex brand, particularly around their respective business ventures and media projects. Both Kim and Meghan operate in spaces that involve media production, fashion, beauty, and lifestyle branding, and there is at least theoretical potential for competition or conflict between their various projects. Kim's Skims brand has become a massive success, valued at billions of dollars and representing a genuine innovation in the shapewear and loungewear space, while Meghan has been rumored to be working on her own lifestyle brand, potentially reviving something similar to her old blog The Tig but on a much larger commercial scale. If Meghan were to launch products or ventures that competed directly with Kim's businesses, that could create tension and prompt Kim to distance herself. Similarly, the Kardashians have their own relationship with streaming platforms through their Hulu series The Kardashians, which replaced their long-running E! show, and they are constantly developing new content and projects. The Sussexes have their Netflix deal and have produced content for that platform, and there could potentially be conflicts or competition around content creation, exclusive relationships with streamers, or simply a feeling that the Sussex brand was too similar to a derivative of the Kardashian brand. This theory is more speculative than some others, as there is no public evidence of direct business conflict between the Kardashians and the Sussexes, but in the cutthroat world of celebrity business ventures, even the potential for future competition could be enough to prompt a preemptive distancing. A third theory that has circulated suggests that the deletion might be related to Kim's own evolving public image and her desire to be taken more seriously beyond her celebrity persona, particularly in her legal work and criminal justice advocacy. Kim has made a genuine effort in recent years to transform her image from reality star and Instagram influencer to serious advocate and aspiring lawyer, studying for the bar exam through California's Law Office Study Program and working on numerous cases to free wrongly convicted individuals or secure sentence reductions for those she believes have been unjustly punished. This work has brought her into contact with lawyers, judges, politicians, and other figures from the legal and political establishment, many of whom might view her association with controversial figures like the Sussexes as undermining her credibility or seriousness of purpose. If Kim received feedback from people in the legal world that her association with Harry and Meghan was damaging her reputation in those circles, or if she simply made her own calculation that distancing herself from celebrity drama would help her legal career, that could explain the deletion. This theory positions the removal of the photograph not as a comment on the Sussexes specifically but as part of Kim's broader project of reinventing herself in her public image, with the Sussex photo being collateral damage in that transformation. Yet another angle to consider involves the complex web of relationships within the entertainment industry and the possibility that Kim faced pressure from other parties to remove her public association with Harry and Meghan. The royal family, despite being an ocean away from Hollywood, still maintains significant influence and numerous connections within the entertainment world, from British actors and filmmakers who have been honored by the Queen or other royals to American entertainment figures who have been invited to royal events or who maintain relationships with various members of the family. It is entirely possible that someone within Kim's circle, whether a business partner, a friend, or an advisor, suggested that her association with the Sussexes could damage relationships with people or institutions connected to the royal family, or that continuing to publicly align herself with Harry and Meghan could close doors that Kim might want to keep open. The entertainment industry runs on relationships and networks, and maintaining good relationships with as many powerful people and institutions as possible is often seen as essential to long-term success. If associating with the Sussexes meant potentially alienating the royal family or their allies and supporters, someone as strategic as Kim might well decide that the risk was not worth the reward. This theory suggests the deletion was about maintaining maximum flexibility and keeping all options open rather than making any particular statement about Harry and Meghan themselves. We must also consider the possibility that the deletion had nothing to do with any dramatic falling out or strategic calculation, but was instead a much more mundane decision related to Instagram aesthetics and Kim's well-known perfectionism about her social media presence. Kim Kardashian is famous for curating her Instagram grid with extreme care, treating it not just as a social media account but as an artistic project and a crucial element of her brand identity. She has spoken in interviews about how much thought goes into every post, every photograph, every caption, and she is known to delete posts that do not perform well or that do not fit with her evolving aesthetic vision. Kim regularly refreshes her Instagram feed, removing older posts to maintain a cohesive look and feel, and she has deleted photographs for reasons as simple as the color scheme not matching her current aesthetic or a post receiving less engagement than she expected. From this perspective, the Sussex photograph might have been removed not because of any problem with Harry and Meghan themselves, but simply because Kim decided it did not fit with where she wanted her Instagram presence to go or because she was doing one of her periodic cleanouts of content. This explanation is less dramatic than theories about snubs and strategic distancing, but it is worth considering that sometimes a deletion is just a deletion, a housekeeping decision with no deeper meaning. However, given the high-profile nature of the subjects in the photograph and the speed with which the deletion was noticed and discussed, it is hard to completely accept this explanation, as someone as media-savvy as Kim would surely have anticipated that removing a photograph of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would generate attention and speculation, which makes it less likely that this was a purely aesthetic decision with no consideration of the broader implications. The timing of the deletion adds another layer of intrigue to the situation and provides important context for understanding what might have motivated Kim's decision. According to reports and social media tracking, the photograph was removed from Kim's Instagram in the period following some of the most intense criticism of the Sussexes and at a time when various other celebrities and public figures were also being observed for their levels of support or distance from the couple. This timing suggests that the deletion may indeed have been responsive to the shifting public discourse around Harry and Meghan rather than being motivated by personal conflict or aesthetic concerns. In the months leading up to the deletion, there had been increasing media focus on which celebrities were standing by the Sussexes and which were quietly distancing themselves, with various tabloids and gossip sites tracking appearances, social media interactions, and public statements to try to map the landscape of celebrity allegiances. This kind of scrutiny would naturally make anyone think twice about their public associations, and for someone like Kim who is constantly in the spotlight and whose every move is analyzed, the pressure to make a decision about where she stood would have been intense. The fact that the deletion came during this period of heightened scrutiny strongly suggests it was a deliberate choice made in response to external pressure or internal calculation rather than a random or coincidental decision. The reaction to the deletion has been as divided as everything else related to the Sussexes, with different groups of people interpreting the action in radically different ways based on their pre-existing views and allegiances. Supporters of Harry and Meghan have largely interpreted the deletion as evidence of the continued hostility and unfair treatment they face, arguing that Kim buckled to pressure from Sussex critics or was influenced by negative media coverage rather than making her own independent judgment. These supporters point out that Meghan in particular has faced enormous amounts of criticism that they view as rooted in racism and misogyny, and they see Kim's deletion of the photograph as one more example of someone abandoning the couple when things get tough rather than standing by them. Some have accused Kim of cowardice or opportunism, suggesting that she was happy to be photographed with royalty when it suited her but quick to distance herself when the association became even slightly problematic. On the other hand, Critics of the Sussexes have interpreted the deletion as validation of their view that Harry and Meghan are increasingly being rejected by their celebrity peers because of their behavior and their constant attacks on the royal family. These critics argue that even someone like Kim Kardashian, who is hardly known for being conservative or traditionally minded, has concluded that the Sussexes are too toxic to associate with, which they take as evidence that Harry and Meghan have gone too far in their public criticisms and have damaged their own standing beyond repair. They point to the deletion as proof that the tide is turning against the couple and that their strategy of leveraging their royal status while attacking the institution that gave them that status is ultimately self-defeating. A third group, perhaps the most cynical, views the entire situation as manufactured drama, suggesting that both Kim and the Sussexes benefit from the speculation and attention that the deletion generates, and that the whole thing might even be a coordinated publicity stunt designed to keep all parties in the news and maintain their relevance in the ever-churning celebrity news cycle. The media coverage of the deletion has been extensive and reflects the broader divisions in how Harry and Meghan are covered by different outlets and publications. British tabloids, which have been consistently critical of the Sussexes since their departure from royal duties, covered the deletion with barely concealed glee, framing it as evidence that the couple is being rejected by the very Hollywood elite they left the royal family to join. Headlines screamed about Kim snubbing the Sussexes, about the couple being frozen out of A-list circles, and about their declining status in the celebrity hierarchy. These articles typically included quotes from unnamed sources claiming to have inside knowledge of tensions between Kim and the Sussexes, though as always with such reporting, the reliability of these sources is questionable and they may simply be reflecting the biases of the publications rather than providing genuine insider information. American celebrity media has been somewhat more measured in its coverage, though still heavily focused on the drama and speculation surrounding the deletion. Publications like People, Entertainment Tonight, and various online gossip sites covered the story extensively but generally took a more neutral tone, presenting multiple possible explanations for the deletion and including perspectives from both Sussex supporters and critics. Social media, as always, has been the Wild West of commentary, with endless threads on Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram dissecting every possible angle of the story, sharing screenshots and receipts, and engaging in heated debates about what the deletion means and whose side everyone should be on. Royal watching YouTube channels and podcasts, which have proliferated in the years since Megxit and have become a significant force in shaping public discourse around the royals, devoted multiple videos and episodes to analyzing the deletion, with some channels that are pro-Sussex expressing disappointment in Kim while anti-Sussex channels celebrated what they saw as the couple's declining celebrity stock. To fully appreciate the significance of this deletion and what it might mean for all parties involved, we need to understand the peculiar nature of celebrity friendships and associations in the modern age, particularly as they play out on social media platforms like Instagram. In previous eras, celebrity relationships were largely conducted in private, with the public only getting glimpses through carefully controlled press releases, authorized photographs, and occasional public appearances. The rise of social media has fundamentally changed this dynamic, as celebrities can now directly communicate with their fans and control their own narratives to an unprecedented degree, but this control comes with the price of constant surveillance and the expectation of transparency. Every follow, every like, every comment, and every photograph becomes a public statement about relationships and allegiances, and fans and media have become remarkably adept at reading significance into even the smallest social media interactions. The concept of being Instagram friends or Instagram official has real meaning in modern celebrity culture, as being included in someone's carefully curated feed is seen as a mark of approval and friendship, while being removed can signal a falling out or a deliberate distancing. This creates a paradox where celebrities have more control over their image than ever before but are also more constrained by the expectations and interpretations of their audience, as every decision they make on social media becomes fodder for analysis and speculation. Kim Kardashian is perhaps the ultimate example of someone who has mastered this new reality, using Instagram as a powerful tool to build her brand and maintain her cultural relevance, but even her expertise does not exempt her from the scrutiny and interpretation that comes with every post and every deletion. The question of what happens next is naturally on everyone's mind, as this story is far from over and the consequences of the deletion are still playing out. For Kim Kardashian, the immediate aftermath has been a mix of increased attention and speculation, which in some ways serves her purposes as someone who thrives on being at the center of cultural conversation, but also creates potential complications depending on how the situation develops. If the deletion was indeed a strategic distancing from the Sussexes in response to their declining public image, then Kim has successfully positioned herself to avoid being dragged down by any further Sussex controversies, but she has also opened herself up to criticism from their supporters and to questions about her loyalty and principles. If on the other hand the deletion was motivated by other factors such as business considerations or aesthetic preferences, then the intense speculation might be creating a narrative that Kim did not intend and that could have unintended consequences for her relationships and reputation. For Harry and Meghan, the deletion is one more data point in the ongoing assessment of their status and standing in their new California life, and whether we see it as a meaningful snub or an insignificant social media housekeeping decision depends entirely on our broader view of their trajectory. If we believe they are struggling to be accepted by Hollywood and that their royal departure has left them in a kind of no man's land, neither fully royal nor fully celebrity, then Kim's deletion becomes significant evidence of that struggle. If on the other hand we see them as having successfully transitioned to their new life and maintaining their relevance and influence through their media deals and public advocacy, then one deleted Instagram photo is hardly consequential. The truth, as usual, probably lies somewhere in between these extremes, with the deletion being meaningful but not definitive, a sign of some shifting dynamics but not a decisive break or rejection. Looking at the broader implications of this situation, the Kim Kardashian photograph deletion is really a case study in how celebrity culture, royal tradition, social media, and public opinion all intersect and influence each other in complex and often unpredictable ways. The fact that a simple photograph deletion can generate such intense interest and debate speaks to the cultural fascination with both the Kardashians and the Sussexes, two sets of famous individuals who represent different but overlapping forms of celebrity and influence. The Kardashians have built their empire on radical transparency, or at least the appearance of it, sharing seemingly every aspect of their lives with their audience while actually maintaining careful control over their narrative and image. The royal family traditionally operated on the opposite principle, maintaining strict privacy and mystery while projecting an image of duty and service through carefully managed public appearances. Harry and Meghan have attempted to chart a middle course, selectively sharing details of their life and struggles while also trying to maintain privacy and control over their story, and this hybrid approach has satisfied neither traditional royalists who feel they have betrayed their duty nor radical transparency advocates who feel they are still too controlled and calculating. Kim Kardashian's position in all of this is as someone who understands celebrity and media management at the highest level, and her decision to delete the photograph, whatever the motivation, reflects her assessment of how to navigate these complex dynamics in a way that serves her interests and protects her brand. The role of race and identity in this entire saga cannot be ignored, as it has been central to the Sussex story from the very beginning and remains a crucial element in how different people interpret events and motivations. Meghan Markle's experience as the first woman of color to marry into the senior British royal family in modern times has been fraught with challenges, and her supporters argue convincingly that much of the criticism and hostility she has faced has been rooted in racism, both explicit and implicit. The treatment of Meghan by certain segments of the British press was indeed markedly different and more hostile than the treatment of other royal wives, and some of the commentary about her crossed clear lines into racist territory. The fact that Harry and Meghan explicitly raised concerns about racism within the royal institution during their Oprah interview, including an allegation that an unnamed family member expressed concerns about how dark baby Archie's skin might be, placed race at the center of their narrative and the public debate about their situation. This context is important when considering Kim Kardashian's decision to delete the photograph, as some observers have questioned whether racial considerations played any role in the decision or in the broader dynamic of celebrity support for the Sussexes. Kim herself has faced accusations of cultural appropriation throughout her career, particularly around her use of black hairstyles and aesthetics, and she has been both criticized and defended for her relationships and choices around race and culture. Whether these considerations factored into her decision regarding the Sussex photograph is impossible to know without direct insight into her thinking, but they are part of the broader context in which these decisions play out. The economic dimensions of celebrity culture are also crucial to understanding this situation, as both the Kardashians and the Sussexes operate as businesses as much as they do as public figures, and every decision they make has potential financial implications. Kim Kardashian's various ventures, from Skims to her cosmetics lines to her media productions, represent billions of dollars in value, and maintaining and growing that value requires constant attention to brand management, public perception, and market positioning. Any association that might threaten those business interests or alienate significant portions of her consumer base would naturally be carefully evaluated and potentially severed if the risks outweighed the benefits. Similarly, Harry and Meghan's ability to command lucrative deals from Netflix, Spotify, and other entities depends on their continued relevance and appeal, and if their public image deteriorates to the point where they become more liability than asset for their business partners, those relationships could be in jeopardy. The deletion of a photograph might seem like a small thing, but in the context of brand management and business strategy, such actions can be significant indicators of how celebrities are assessing risk and opportunity. If Kim concluded that associating with the Sussexes had become a net negative for her business interests, the deletion makes perfect sense from a purely economic perspective, regardless of any personal feelings or social considerations. The power dynamics at play in this situation are also worth examining, as they reveal interesting things about hierarchy and influence in contemporary celebrity culture. On the surface, one might think that royalty, even former working royalty, would outrank reality television stars in any social hierarchy, as the former represents centuries of tradition and genuine aristocratic pedigree while the latter is a creation of modern media with no historical legacy. However, in the specific context of social media influence and contemporary cultural power, the equation is more complicated. Kim Kardashian's 360 million plus Instagram followers give her a reach and influence that arguably exceeds that of Harry and Meghan, whose combined social media following, while substantial, does not match Kim's individual numbers. Moreover, Kim has demonstrated a proven ability to monetize her fame and translate it into lasting business success, while Harry and Meghan are still in the relatively early stages of building their post-royal brand and have faced some setbacks, such as the termination of their Spotify deal. In this context, Kim arguably holds more power in the relationship, and her decision to delete the photograph can be seen as an exercise of that power, a statement that she does not need the association with them as much as they might benefit from association with her. This inversion of what might be expected based on traditional social hierarchies reflects how profoundly social media and celebrity culture have disrupted old models of status and influence, creating new hierarchies based on follower counts, engagement rates, and business success rather than birth, title, or family name. The psychological and emotional dimensions of these very public relationships and conflicts should not be underestimated either, as behind all the strategic calculations and business considerations are real human beings with feelings, insecurities, and vulnerabilities. For Harry and Meghan, having their photograph deleted by someone like Kim Kardashian, if they even noticed or cared about such things, could be experienced as yet another rejection in what has been a long series of public criticisms and perceived slights since they left royal life. They have spoken openly about the toll that media scrutiny and public criticism has taken on their mental health, with Meghan revealing she experienced suicidal thoughts during her time as a working royal, and it is not difficult to imagine that continued rejection and criticism in their new life could be deeply painful, even when it comes in the form of something as seemingly trivial as a deleted Instagram photo. For Kim, the decision to delete the photograph, if it was motivated by concern about public perception or business considerations, might represent a pragmatic choice that she did not agonize over, but it could also reflect her own vulnerabilities and insecurities about how she is perceived, particularly in her effort to be taken more seriously beyond her reality television origins. The fact that these emotional and psychological dimensions are rarely discussed in the endless speculation and hot takes about celebrity conflicts does not make them any less real or important to the actual individuals involved. The role of gender in how all of this plays out is another crucial factor that deserves attention, as both Kim Kardashian and Meghan Markle have faced particular forms of scrutiny and criticism that are distinctly gendered in nature. Women in the public eye are routinely held to different and often harsher standards than their male counterparts, with their appearances, their relationships, their parenting choices, and their emotional expressions all subject to intense judgment and criticism. Both Kim and Meghan have been called attention seekers, social climbers, bad influences, and various other gendered insults that reflect deep-seated cultural anxieties about women who pursue power, wealth, and public prominence. The fact that both women have married famous men, Kim to Kanye West and Meghan to Prince Harry, has led to accusations that they were using these relationships for advancement, accusations that are rarely leveled with the same intensity at men who marry famous or wealthy women. The deletion of the photograph and the speculation surrounding it is filtered through these gendered lenses, with interpretations and reactions often reflecting underlying assumptions about women's motivations, loyalties, and worthiness. Understanding these gendered dynamics does not necessarily tell us why Kim deleted the photo, but it does help us understand why the deletion matters so much to so many people and why it has generated such passionate and divided reactions. The media ecosystem that has grown up around royal watching and celebrity culture has become a powerful force in its own right, shaping narratives and influencing public opinion. in ways that can have real consequences for the individuals being covered. Royal correspondents, celebrity journalists, gossip bloggers, YouTube commentators, and social media influencers all make their living covering people like Kim Kardashian and Harry and Meghan, and they have a vested interest in finding drama, conflict, and intrigue even when the reality might be more mundane. A deleted Instagram photo becomes a major story not necessarily because it is objectively important but because it serves the needs of this content creation machine, providing material for articles, videos, social media posts, and endless speculation that keeps audiences engaged and advertisers happy. This creates a feedback loop where small actions or decisions are amplified into major events, which then influences how the subjects of the coverage behave and make decisions, which in turn generates more content for the media ecosystem. Kim Kardashian is unique in that she understands this system better than almost anyone and has successfully used it to build her empire, but even she is not entirely in control of the narratives that emerge around her actions. The deletion of the Sussex photograph has taken on a life of its own in the media ecosystem, becoming a story that is bigger than the original action and that reflects the interests and biases of the many people telling and retelling it. The question of authenticity and what is real versus what is performed or strategic is central to understanding modern celebrity culture in this particular situation. When we watch the Kardashians on television or follow them on social media, we are seeing carefully curated and often scripted versions of their lives, not raw unmediated reality. When Harry and Meghan speak in interviews or produce documentaries about their experiences, they are constructing narratives that serve their interests and support their version of events, even if those narratives are based on genuinely felt emotions and real experiences. The line between authentic self-expression and strategic brand management is increasingly blurred in celebrity culture, with even seemingly spontaneous moments often being calculated for maximum impact. This makes it almost impossible to know what the deletion of the photograph really means or what motivated it, as we are operating in a realm where everything is potentially performance and strategy but where genuine feelings and relationships also exist beneath the surface. Did Kim delete the photo because she genuinely feels differently about Harry and Meghan than she did before, or was it a strategic move divorced from personal feeling? Did she face pressure from others, or was it her own independent decision? Was there a specific incident that triggered the deletion, or was it part of a broader reassessment of her social media presence? Without direct access to Kim's thoughts and without more information than is publicly available, we cannot answer these questions with certainty, and we are left to speculate and project our own assumptions and biases onto the situation. The international dimension of this story is also significant, as it reflects and reinforces transatlantic cultural differences and tensions that have been a consistent theme throughout the Sussex saga. The British public and media have generally been more critical of Harry and Meghan than their American counterparts, with polling consistently showing lower approval ratings in the UK than in the US. This divide reflects different cultural values and expectations around royalty, duty, family, and public versus private life, with British culture traditionally placing greater emphasis on stoicism, service, and keeping family matters private, while American culture tends to value individual happiness, therapeutic disclosure, and standing up for oneself even against powerful institutions. Kim Kardashian, as an American celebrity icon, exists within the American cultural framework where her brand of radical transparency and unashamed pursuit of success is celebrated or at least accepted, while many in Britain view the Kardashian phenomenon with bewilderment or disdain, seeing it as representative of everything wrong with contemporary celebrity culture. The fact that Harry and Meghan left Britain to essentially become American-style celebrities has been particularly galling to many Britons who feel they abandoned their responsibilities and betrayed their country, and any association between the Sussexes and American celebrities like the Kardashians reinforces this perception of them as having chosen fame and fortune over duty and tradition. Kim's deletion of the photograph might be read differently on different sides of the Atlantic, with some Americans seeing it as a savvy business move and some Britons seeing it as proof that the Sussexes are losing even their American supporters. The legal and security considerations that surround Harry and Meghan are also worth noting, as they have been a constant source of tension and conflict since their departure from royal life. One of Harry's most consistent complaints has been about the decision to remove his publicly funded security protection when he stepped back from royal duties, and he has engaged in ongoing legal battles in British courts over this issue, arguing that he and his family face unique threats due to his status and background. The question of security costs and who should pay for them has been a contentious topic, with critics arguing that Harry cannot expect British taxpayers to fund his protection when he has chosen to live abroad and pursue commercial ventures, while supporters argue that the threats to him and his family are real and result from his royal birth and service, making it unreasonable to leave them unprotected. This security situation could potentially be relevant to celebrity associations, as hosting or being photographed with Harry and Meghan could in theory create security complications for the other parties involved, though there is no public evidence that this was a factor in Kim's decision to delete the photograph. Nevertheless, in the complex calculus of celebrity relationships, practical considerations like security logistics, insurance implications, and potential safety risks could play a role alongside the more obvious factors of public perception and brand management. The timing and pacing of public revelations in media projects from both the Kardashians and the Sussexes creates its own layer of complexity, as both families are engaged in ongoing content creation that requires careful management of what information is released when and how. The Kardashians built their empire on a reality show that purported to show their real lives but was of course edited and shaped into narrative arcs that would keep audiences engaged, and their transition to Hulu has continued this pattern of turning their lives into content. Harry and Meghan have similarly been creating content about their lives through their Netflix documentary, Harry's Memoir, and various interviews and public appearances, and they too are engaged in a process of deciding what to share, what to withhold, and how to frame their story for maximum impact and sympathy. This means that both parties are constantly operating on multiple levels, living their actual lives while simultaneously creating content about their lives and managing public perceptions of their lives, and actions like the photograph deletion can be understood within this context of layered reality. In strategic disclosure, was the photograph taken and posted as a genuine documentation of friendship and connection, or was it always a piece of content designed to send certain messages and create certain associations? Was the deletion a real response to changed circumstances, or could it be part of some larger narrative arc that has not yet been revealed? These questions sound paranoid or conspiratorial, but in a world where reality has become content and where celebrities make millions by turning their lives into entertainment, they are actually quite reasonable to ask. The role of advisors, publicists, managers, and other behind-the-scenes figures in shaping celebrity decisions and narratives is often overlooked in public discussions but is absolutely crucial to understanding how things actually work. Kim Kardashian does not operate alone but is surrounded by a sophisticated team of professionals who help her manage her brand, her businesses, her media presence, and her public image, and any significant decision about social media content would likely involve consultation with these advisors. Similarly, Harry and Meghan have their own team of advisors and representatives who help them navigate their complex situation and make decisions about media engagements, business deals, and public statements. The deletion of the photograph could have been recommended by Kim's team based on their assessment of the risks and benefits, or it could have been Kim's own decision that her team then had to support and manage the fallout from, or it could have been some combination of the two. We simply do not have visibility into these behind-the-scenes conversations and decision-making processes, but we know they exist and that they play a significant role in shaping the public actions and statements of high-profile celebrities. This means that interpreting celebrity behavior as purely personal or purely strategic is almost certainly wrong, as the reality is that it reflects a complex interplay of personal feelings, professional advice, business calculations, and practical considerations, all filtered through the lens of media management and public perception. The historical precedents for royal family members trying to forge independent lives outside the traditional royal structure are worth examining, as Harry and Meghan are not the first to attempt this transition, though they are certainly the most high-profile in the modern media age. Edward VIII famously abdicated the throne in 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee, and lived the rest of his life in a kind of royal exile, never fully accepted back into the family fold but also never able to completely escape his royal identity. Princess Margaret, Queen Elizabeth's younger sister, struggled throughout her life with the constraints of royal duty and the limitations placed on her personal freedom, ultimately living a somewhat diminished life compared to what her intelligence and charisma might have achieved in different circumstances. Prince Andrew's daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, have had to navigate the complexities of being princesses by birth but not working royals, maintaining their royal titles and connections while pursuing their own careers and lives. Diana, Princess of Wales, after her divorce from Charles, tried to carve out a new role for herself as a private citizen who still engaged in charitable work and used her platform for causes she cared about, but her life was cut tragically short before we could see how that transition would have fully unfolded. Harry and Meghan's situation is different from all of these precedents in important ways, particularly in their very public criticisms of the royal institution and their embrace of commercial media deals, but the broader pattern of individuals struggling to define themselves outside the rigid structure of royal life while still dealing with the identity and baggage that comes from their royal background as a familiar one. The difference today is that social media and the modern celebrity ecosystem have made it possible to pursue a level of fame and commercial success that would not have been available to previous generations of royals trying to strike out on their own, but it has also made them subject to unprecedented levels of scrutiny and public judgment. The impact of all this drama and speculation on the actual children involved, particularly Harry and Meghan's two young children Archie and Lilibet, is something that deserves consideration even though it is rarely discussed in coverage of these issues. One of Harry's most consistently stated motivations for his decisions has been his desire to protect his children from the kind of media intrusion and public pressure that he experienced growing up and that he believes contributed to his mother's death, and there is no question that being raised in the media spotlight can have profound psychological impacts on children. The ongoing media circus around Harry and Meghan, including stories like the Kardashian photograph deletion, means that Archie and Lilibet are growing up in an environment where their parents are constantly discussed, criticized, defended, and speculated about, where every family decision becomes a public matter, and where they will eventually be old enough to read and understand the negative things being said about their mother and father. Similarly, Kim Kardashian's 4 children are growing up in an even more intense spotlight, with their lives documented on television and social media from birth and with their every milestone and moment shared with millions of strangers. The long-term impacts of this kind of upbringing are still not fully understood, as we are living through the first generation of children raised by parents who are social media influencers and reality television stars, but there are legitimate concerns about privacy, normalcy, and the ability to develop a healthy sense of self when your life is content and your family relationships are performed for public consumption. Whether or how these considerations factor into decisions like the photograph deletion is unclear, but they are part of the broader context of what it means to be a child of celebrities in the 21st century. The question of legacy and how Kim Kardashian, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle will be remembered by history is impossible to answer definitively but fascinating to consider. Kim has already secured her place in cultural history as someone who fundamentally changed celebrity culture, social media, and the relationship between fame and business, and regardless of how one feels about her or her contributions, she will be studied and discussed for decades to come as a key figure in early 21st century popular culture. Whether she is ultimately remembered as a savvy entrepreneur who built an empire or as a symbol of everything shallow and narcissistic about contemporary celebrity culture will depend partly on how her story continues to unfold and partly on the values and perspectives of future generations looking back. Harry's legacy is more complicated, as he will always be remembered as Princess Diana's son and a British prince, but whether he is seen as someone who courageously broke free from an oppressive institution to live authentically or as someone who betrayed his family and country for money and fame will be debated for generations. Meghan's place in history is perhaps the most uncertain, as she existed in a liminal space between royalty and celebrity for such a brief period that her lasting impact is difficult to assess, though her supporters would argue that she has already secured her legacy as someone who challenged racism and outdated institutions, while her critics would characterize her as an opportunist who used and discarded the royal family for her own benefit. The photograph deletion is an infinitesimally small moment in these larger stories, yet it is also representative of the kinds of choices and circumstances that will shape how these individuals are remembered, as history is built from countless small decisions and interactions that accumulate over time into patterns and narratives that define legacies. The broader cultural conversation about authenticity, privacy, and the performative nature of modern life that the Sussex saga and moments like the Kardashian photograph deletion represent is perhaps the most significant aspect of all this, as it forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the kind of society we are creating and participating in. We live in an age where privacy is increasingly difficult to maintain, where every aspect of life can be documented and shared, where the boundary between public and private self has become blurred to the point of near invisibility, and where the metrics of likes, follows, and engagement have become measures of worth and success. The Kardashians have embraced this reality fully, building their empire on the willing surrender of privacy and the transformation of their lives into content, while Harry and Meghan occupy a more ambiguous position, wanting privacy and the ability to control their narrative while also needing public attention and engagement to maintain their relevance and earning power. This contradiction, wanting to be left alone while also constantly putting yourself in the public eye, is at the heart of much of the criticism leveled at the Sussexes, but it also reflects a broader societal tension that many people experience on a smaller scale as they navigate social media and digital life. Most people are not dealing with the level of scrutiny that celebrities face, but the basic questions about how much to share, how to present oneself online, how to manage privacy while also seeking connection and validation, and how to live authentically in a world that increasingly feels performative are universal challenges in the digital age. The Kardashian photograph deletion is a microcosm of these larger issues, a moment that illustrates how complicated and fraught these questions have become. The economic implications of the creator economy and influencer culture that both the Kardashians and the Sussexes are navigating are also worth understanding, as they represent a fundamental shift in how fame is created, maintained, and monetized. Traditional celebrity was built on talent in a specific field, whether acting, music, sports, or some other area, combined with media exposure through controlled channels like television, film, and print media, and celebrities made money through their work in that field plus endorsements and personal appearances. The rise of social media and streaming platforms has disrupted this model completely, creating new pathways to fame that bypass traditional gatekeepers and new ways to monetize attention that do not depend on traditional talent or media institutions. Kim Kardashian represents the apotheosis of this new model, as someone who parlayed reality television and social media presence into a billion-dollar empire without relying on traditional entertainment industry skills or credentials. Harry and Meghan are trying to operate in this new landscape while also drawing on their traditional celebrity status from Harry's royal background, and their success or failure in navigating this hybrid position will have implications for how we understand celebrity and influence going forward. The deletion of a photograph on Instagram is a small tactical move within this larger strategic landscape, but it reflects the constant calibration and adjustment that is necessary to succeed in the attention economy, where associations, perceptions, and positioning can all impact earning potential and business opportunities. The role of trauma and mental health in Harry and Meghan's story is another crucial element that deserves serious consideration, as both have been remarkably open about their struggles and the psychological impact of their experiences. Harry has spoken extensively about the unprocessed trauma he carried from his mother's death, his struggles with anger and emotional regulation, his use of drugs and alcohol to cope, and his journey toward healing through therapy and other interventions. Meghan has revealed her experience with suicidal ideation during her time as a working royal, her feelings of isolation and lack of support, and her ongoing struggles with anxiety and depression related to media scrutiny and public attacks. These are serious mental health issues that deserve to be taken seriously and responded to with empathy and compassion, regardless of one's views on their other decisions and behavior. At the same time, the public nature of these revelations and the context in which they have been shared, often as part of paid media appearances or commercial projects, has led some critics to question the sincerity of these disclosures or to view them as weaponized vulnerability designed to deflect criticism and generate sympathy. This is an extraordinarily difficult balance to strike, as on one hand we should encourage public figures to speak honestly about mental health struggles to reduce stigma and help others who are suffering, but on the other hand there are legitimate questions about whether sharing such intimate details in commercial contexts undermines the authenticity of the disclosure or crosses lines around privacy and family loyalty. The photograph deletion might seem completely unrelated to mental health issues, but if Kim's decision was motivated by concern about being associated with controversy or drama, and if that controversy and drama is partly rooted in Harry and Meghan's mental health struggles and how they have chosen to discuss them publicly, then these issues are indeed connected in complex ways. The generational differences in how these issues are perceived and discussed are also significant, as younger audiences tend to be much more sympathetic to Harry and Meghan's decisions and their emphasis on mental health, authenticity, and breaking free from oppressive institutions, while older generations are more likely to value tradition, duty, and keeping family matters private. This generational divide reflects broader cultural shifts around work, family, mental health, and the relationship between individuals and institutions, with younger generations generally placing greater emphasis on individual fulfillment and well-being over institutional loyalty and traditional expectations. Kim Kardashian, at 45 years old at the time of the deletion, sits somewhere in the middle of these generational dynamics, old enough to remember pre-social media celebrity culture but young enough to have been at the forefront of the social media revolution, and her decisions and actions reflect this hybrid position. Whether the photograph deletion was influenced by generational considerations or reflects any particular generational perspective is impossible to say, but the broader context of generational attitudes toward fame, privacy, mental health, and royal tradition certainly shapes how different audiences interpret and respond to the action. The question of what constitutes appropriate boundaries around public criticism of one's family is another key issue that runs through the Sussex saga and colors reactions to related events like the photograph deletion. Harry has been extraordinarily candid about his family relationships, sharing details about conflicts with his brother William, conversations with his father Charles, concerns about his stepmother Camilla, and various other intimate family matters that many people feel should have remained private. His supporters argue that he has every right to tell his story and that his family members have not been held accountable for their own poor behavior because of their institutional power and media protection, while his critics view his public criticisms as a betrayal of family loyalty and a violation of basic decency regardless of whatever private grievances he might have. This touches on a fundamental question about where the line should be drawn between honest disclosure and airing dirty laundry, between speaking one's truth and respecting family privacy, and reasonable people can disagree about where that line falls. The fact that Harry has profited significantly from these disclosures through book deals and media contracts adds another layer of complexity, as it raises questions about whether the motivation is genuine catharsis and accountability or financial opportunism. These questions about family boundaries and loyalty might seem unrelated to Kim Kardashian deleting a photograph, but if the deletion was motivated by discomfort with Harry and Meghan's approach to family conflict or a sense that they had crossed lines that made them inappropriate to associate with, then these deeper questions about family loyalty and public disclosure are indeed central to understanding what happened. The intersection of politics and celebrity that both the Kardashians and the Sussexes navigate is another fascinating dimension of this story, as both have been drawn into or have deliberately engaged with political and social issues in ways that have complicated their public images. Kim Kardashian's criminal justice reform work has brought her into direct contact with politicians and policymakers, including meeting with President Trump to advocate for pardons and commutations, and she has been praised for using her platform and resources to help incarcerated individuals while also being criticized for being in over her head or for legitimizing a controversial political figure. Harry and Meghan have been similarly engaged with political and social issues, speaking out on topics like climate change, racial justice, mental health, and voting rights, and their interventions have been welcomed by those who agree with their positions but criticized by those who feel they should remain politically neutral given Harry's royal background. The question of whether and how celebrities should engage with political issues is a perennial source of debate, with some arguing that celebrities have a responsibility to use their platforms for social good while others insist that celebrity political advocacy is counterproductive and that entertainers should stick to entertaining. The photograph deletion could potentially have political dimensions if Kim felt that association with the Sussexes carried political implications that she wanted to avoid, or if she received pressure from people with different political views who objected to the Sussexes' political stances, though there is no public evidence to support this theory. Nevertheless, in our highly polarized political environment where everything is increasingly viewed through a political lens, even seemingly apolitical decisions like social media housekeeping can take on political meaning or be interpreted through political frameworks. The question of redemption and whether public figures who have made mistakes or who are involved in controversies can or should be forgiven and given second chances is relevant to understanding the various reactions to the photograph deletion and to the broader Sussex saga. Both Kim Kardashian and the Sussexes have made mistakes, faced legitimate criticism, and been involved in controversies, and our willingness to extend grace and forgiveness to them reflects our broader values about accountability, growth, and the possibility of change. Some people have a more forgiving approach, believing that everyone deserves the opportunity to learn from mistakes and that public figures should not be permanently defined by their worst moments or most controversial decisions. Others take a harder line, arguing that certain actions or patterns of behavior reveal character in ways that should not be excused or forgotten, and that public figures who have platforms and influence should be held to high standards. Where one falls on this spectrum significantly impacts how one views both Kim's career despite various controversies and the Sussexes' situation despite legitimate questions about some of their choices. The deletion of the photograph could be interpreted as Kim withdrawing grace and forgiveness from the Sussexes, deciding that their continued controversies and criticisms had crossed a line beyond which she was not willing to maintain public association, or it could have nothing to do with forgiveness or judgment and instead reflect purely pragmatic considerations. These questions about redemption, forgiveness, and accountability are ultimately deeply personal and reflect individual values and life experiences, which helps explain why people have such divergent reactions to the same events and information. The future trajectories of the Kardashians and the Sussexes will be shaped by decisions like the photograph deletion and by how they each continue to navigate their complex positions in celebrity culture and public life, and watching how these stories unfold will provide ongoing insight into the nature of modern fame, the possibilities and limitations of celebrity influence, and the changing relationships between public figures and their audiences. Kim Kardashian shows no signs of slowing down despite being in her mid-40s and having already achieved extraordinary success, as she continues to expand her business empire, pursue her legal studies, and maintain her position at the center of cultural conversation. Her ability to continuously reinvent herself and remain relevant across multiple years and changing cultural trends is remarkable and suggests she will continue to be a significant figure for years to come. Harry and Meghan face a more uncertain future, as their ability to maintain their current level of attention and commercial success depends on their ability to produce compelling content, avoid further damaging controversies, and potentially repair relationships with some of the people and institutions they have criticized. They are still relatively early in their post-royal journey, only a few years removed from their departure from working royal life, and whether they can build sustainable careers and lasting influence outside the royal structure remains an open question. Some observers predict they will fade into relative obscurity once the public appetite for royal drama diminishes and their contracts with streaming services expire, while others believe they have successfully transitioned into permanent fixtures of celebrity culture with staying power independent of their royal connections. The photograph deletion is just one moment in these ongoing stories, but it is the accumulation of such moments that will ultimately determine these long-term trajectories and legacies. The ethics of our consumption of celebrity content and our participation in the speculation and judgment of public figures is perhaps the most uncomfortable question raised by situations like the Kardashian photograph deletion, as it forces us to examine our own role in creating the dynamics and pressures that shape celebrity behavior. Every click on a gossip article, every comment on a social media post, every share of a controversial story, every YouTube video view, contributes to the economic engine that drives celebrity media and creates incentives for more drama, more conflict, and more invasion of privacy. We as consumers and audience members are not passive recipients of celebrity content but active participants in creating demand for certain kinds of stories and coverage, and the media ecosystem responds to that demand by providing more of what gets attention and engagement. If we are honest with ourselves, many people derive entertainment and even pleasure from celebrity conflicts and controversies, from seeing famous people dealing with problems or facing criticism, and this somewhat dark aspect of human nature fuels an enormous industry built on documenting and analyzing the lives of public figures. The photograph deletion is exactly the kind of story that feeds this machine, providing minimal actual information but maximum opportunity for speculation, judgment, and parasocial engagement with people we do not actually know but feel we have relationships with because of their media presence. Recognizing our own complicity in this system does not necessarily mean we need to completely disengage from celebrity culture, but it might encourage more thoughtful and ethical consumption of such content and more awareness of how our attention and engagement shapes the media landscape and potentially impacts the actual human beings being covered. Now, after examining every conceivable angle of this situation, from the personal to the political, from the economic to the psychological, from the historical to the cultural, we are left with the fundamental question of what the deletion of one photograph from one Instagram account really tells us about anything important, and the answer is both everything and nothing. It tells us everything in the sense that this small digital action encapsulates so many of the defining features of contemporary celebrity culture, including the power of social media to create and destroy relationships and reputations, the constant pressure on public figures to manage their images and associations, the insatiable public appetite for drama and conflict involving famous people, the complex intersection of personal and professional considerations in celebrity decision-making, and the way that even seemingly trivial actions can take on enormous symbolic weight in our highly mediated and hyper-analyzed culture. It tells us nothing in the sense that we do not actually know why Kim Kardashian deleted the photograph. We can only speculate based on incomplete information and our own biases and assumptions, and the deletion itself has no inherent meaning beyond what we choose to project onto it. Perhaps it was a calculated snub reflecting Kim's assessment that the Sussexes had become too controversial to associate with, or perhaps it was a mundane housekeeping decision with no deeper significance, or perhaps it was something else entirely that we have not even considered. The truth is we will probably never know for certain what motivated the deletion unless Kim chooses to address it directly, which seems unlikely. Given that public explanations often create more problems than they solve and that strategic ambiguity can be more valuable than clarity when it comes to maintaining relationships and options. What we can say with confidence is that the deletion matters because it has been noticed, discussed, and interpreted by millions of people, and that collective attention and meaning-making process is real and consequential regardless of what actually motivated the original action. The story of Kim Kardashian deleting a photograph of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from her Instagram has entered the cultural narrative around all three of these individuals, becoming part of how we understand their relationships, their positions in celebrity hierarchy, and their ongoing stories. It has provided endless material for content creators, from tabloid journalists to YouTube commentators to social media users, all of whom have their own perspectives and agendas in telling and retelling the story. It has confirmed existing beliefs and biases for people on all sides of these various debates, with Sussex supporters seeing more evidence of unfair treatment, Sussex critics seeing validation of their view that the couple is losing support, Kardashian fans defending Kim's right to curate her own social media, and royal watchers finding yet another data point in their ongoing analysis of modern monarchy and celebrity. The deletion has sparked conversations about loyalty, authenticity, strategic relationships, social media etiquette, celebrity culture, racial dynamics, family conflict, and countless other topics, conversations that have value and meaning to the people having them even if they are based on incomplete information and speculation. In this sense, the deletion was significant not because of what it objectively was or what it definitively meant, but because of what it allowed us to talk about and think about, the way it provided a focal point for broader discussions and debates about issues that matter to people. This is ultimately what celebrity culture provides, not actual insight into the lives of famous people, which remains largely inaccessible to us regardless of how much content they share, but rather a shared language and set of symbols through which we can discuss deeper questions about values, relationships, success, authenticity, and how to live in a complicated world. The Kim Kardashian and Sussex photograph saga is just one more entry in this ongoing cultural conversation, neither more nor less significant than countless other celebrity moments that capture public attention and imagination, but valuable nonetheless as a mirror reflecting our own concerns, prejudices, hopes, and fears back to us in slightly distorted but still recognizable form. As we bring this extensive exploration to a close, having examined this situation from virtually every possible angle and considered implications ranging from the immediate and personal to the historical and philosophical, we are left with a final question that gets to the heart of why we care so much about the lives of celebrities and why a deleted Instagram photograph can generate such intense interest and passionate debate. Do you think Kim Kardashian's deletion of the Sussex photograph represents a meaningful statement about their relationship and the Sussexes' standing in celebrity culture, or is it simply a routine social media decision that has been overanalyzed and given significance it does not truly deserve? And more broadly, what does our intense fascination with such celebrity moments reveal about ourselves and the culture we have created in this digital age where every action by famous people becomes content to be consumed, dissected, and debated by millions?